So today we're going to start 5-8, and parallel lines are exactly what we just talked about, right? They're two lines that do not intersect. Okay, so two lines that do not intersect. What does intersect mean? Yeah, they don't cross each other. And I'll zoom that in for you guys. Okay, and then I drew a couple of examples on the board, okay, of parallel lines. So you guys can draw your own in here. Okay, so they're going the same direction. They don't intersect each other. And the reason why they don't intersect each other is because they have the same slope. Okay, so they're never going to cross each other because they have the same exact slope. Remember, the slope just tells you how steep a line is. Okay, so they have the same one. Okay, so you guys told me that you were not sure what perpendicular lines are. So, perpendicular lines are two lines that meet to form a right angle. So will you guys draw a vertical line? We're going to draw the picture first, and then we'll put it in words. And then I want you to draw a horizontal line. And then I'm going to teach you a symbol today that is also a symbol you'll use in geometry. So not only do these two lines meet, but they meet to form right angles. Do you guys know how many degrees are in a right angle?
90.
Yep, 90. And this is the symbol. Have you guys ever seen this before? It looks like a little square in the corner. Did you grab the notes on your way in or no? Okay, so this means 90 degrees.
I know the angle.
You know the symbol, or you know the 90 degrees?
90 degrees.
Yep, good. So two lines that meet to form right angles. Okay, and right angles are 90 degrees. So you guys have talked about right angles in your previous math classes. Do you guys know what other types of angles there are besides right? Obtuse, yep, and acute little angle, right? Less than 90. And then obtuse would be greater. Yep. So two lines that meet to form right angles. Okay, and then when lines are perpendicular, they also have special slope properties, okay? There's two ways that you will hear the slopes. So we're going to write the first one is that the slopes are, and this is going to be a new term, okay? So the slopes are opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. So you've heard those two terms apart. If you look down here, you can see we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So the slopes are opposite reciprocals. And the second thing that should happen is when you take the slopes of those two lines, the product of the slopes is equal to -1. The product of the slopes is equal to -1. And remember, the product is what you get when you multiply. So if you take the two slopes and you multiply them together, okay, if you multiply the slopes and you get -1, then you know that they're perpendicular. Okay? So we're going to break down this term, this opposite reciprocal term, and we're going to do some examples of opposite reciprocals. So when something is opposite in math, it refers to the sign in front. Okay, so the sign can either be positive or negative. So if it's positive, it goes to negative and vice versa. So if they're opposites, one is positive, the other is negative. Or one is negative and the other is positive. Do you guys remember hearing the word reciprocal? We usually use that with fractions because if you have a fraction, if you flip it, then it's a reciprocal. So a reciprocal is what you get when you flip a fraction. Okay, a reciprocal is what you get when you flip a fraction, or if it's not a fraction, you put the whole number under 1. We'll talk about why that is. So you either have a fraction and you flip it, or if your slope is a whole number, you just put that whole number under 1. So a whole number would be like 3. The reciprocal of 3 would be 1 over 3. So we're going to do some examples. And like I said, I'll do some of them with you, and then I'll have you do a couple, okay? Okay, so the first one is 2/3. So this is what's given. And then I'm just going to abbreviate this, the opposite reciprocal. Well, you guys are going to write it here. So if it's the opposite, is 2/3 positive or negative?
Negative. Positive.
This one's positive, and then the opposite would be negative. So let's put that down first. Do you think you could do the reciprocal part without me? Could you do the reciprocal part without me? Just based on this definition? Because this is a fraction, right? Mm-hmm. So all you have to do is flip it. What does that mean? Yeah, just switch the top and the bottom. So this would be negative 3 over 2. Okay, I'm going to give you this, negative 6 over 5. And then can you guys write that one down? And then if you want to try this one, you can. I'm just going to draw an arrow to each one. Okay, so what was the sign for this one? Positive. Okay, and then what was the fraction?
Positive.
Yeah, so it's just 5 over 6. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you got that without me. Okay. All right, now this is a whole number. So if it's negative, we know this is going to be positive. And then if it's a whole number, you're going to put it under 1. So if there's no fraction, automatically 1 goes on the top. And then we're just going to put the 4 on the bottom. Okay? So if this is negative, this one will be positive. Okay, so for example 1, we're going to do part A together, and then I'm going to have you do B and C, okay? So it says identify the slope of the line. So one thing we want to really focus on is reading the directions. So you are identifying the slope of the line that's parallel to and perpendicular to your given line. So we've done this before where you had to pick out the slope. Remember, the slope is just what letter? M. Yep. Okay, so your M. Okay. What I want you to do right now is I just want you to write what your M is, or you could even just underline it for A, B, and C. So M equals, see if you can do C as well. I just want you to tell me what the slope is. What's the value of M in each of those? That.
Oh.
It's always the value that's in front, right? So you have two different ways that you can find your M. Okay, so then for A, Stacy, will you tell me what your M value is? So just what's your slope of this line? Or if you're not sure, tell me, I can help you. Okay, so what you're going to do is if it's in this form, y equals mx plus b, the M value will always be in front of your x. So it's 6, yeah? Okay, so your M value is 6, that's all I wanted you to do for that one. Okay? And then, Keith, for B, what's your M value? So this one, see how your M was 6? You don't have to pick out your slope, right? Your M is always in front of what? Yeah, 4 over 3. Yep, so your M value is always in front of your X, okay? If it's in this form. Now for C, that's in point slope form. Yeah, you want to tell me? Yeah, -2. Good. So remember that this is your other equation. Okay, good work. So the M value, if it's in point slope form, is in front of your parentheses. Okay, so yep, it is -2. Great. There you go. And then once you have done that, if you're trying to find the slope of the line that's parallel, we just talked about how if it's parallel, the slopes have to be the same. Okay, so if it's parallel, they have the same slope. So if the slope of the line is 6, the slope of the parallel line is also 6. Okay, so whatever you got for M, that's going to be the same. So parallel is always the same slope. The same slope. Okay, so based on what we did here, I'm going to have you two, or not you two, I'm going to have you guys fill in those two. Okay, now with perpendicular, that's where we talked about the opposite reciprocals. Yep. So if this is positive, this is going to be negative. And this isn't a fraction, it's a whole number. So if it's a whole number, we have to put it under 1. Yep, so it should be -1 over 6. Yes, I was going to say, why don't you look at the examples above. So for all of these, it's the opposite reciprocal. Okay, and then I'll come around and check your answers. All right, so for parallel, whatever you got for M should be the exact same. Can you guys pay attention up here, please? And then once you do the perpendicular, if it's a fraction, you flip it, and then you change the sign. So positive to negative. If this one's negative, you know this one's going to be positive. So if it's a whole number, you have to put it over 1. You just did a nice job with that. All right, and then The next thing we're going to do is going to require some graphing.
Yo.
Yeah, lots of graphing today. So what you're going to do is identify if the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or they could be neither. Okay, so that's the first thing that we're going to do is identify. Okay, and then you are going to graph the lines. Okay, so what we're going to be doing a lot in this section is working with multiple lines. So you have line 1 and you have line 2. This is actually going to combine a lot of things that we've done before. So for line 1, you want to have these in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to write the steps to what we're doing here. The first thing we're going to do is put each line in slope-intercept form. Okay, do you guys know why we're going to do that? So if you put each line in slope-intercept form here, okay, when you have it in this form, you know your M is in front of the X. So if it's in this form, it's very easy to find your slope. Okay, you can pick out your M right away. And then once you find the slope of each line, you are going to compare the slopes. Okay, and then you're just going to identify if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Okay, and then there are these little symbols for each one. So parallel, I'm going to teach you the symbol. It's this. It's two little lines next to each other. Perpendicular is this, an upside down T. And then the other one is going to be neither. Okay. So I'll give you a second to write that down. Well, this one we're doing together. The first one. Okay. So when you are putting it in y equals mx plus b form, sometimes you already have it. Every time you're given two lines, we are going to call these lines L1 and L2. Okay, so this is the first line. We're going to call it L1. Is this already in the form y equals mx plus b? Yep. If it is, then you can pick out your slope right away. Okay, so I just want you to write down what your M is. Okay, so once you have found your slope for the first line, now we're going to find the slope for the second line. Okay, so for L2, you have 5y equals 3x minus 10. 5y equals 3x minus 10. Now this is so close to being in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, you can't have any numbers in front of the y. But I have this 5. How do I move it over? You divide, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you are dividing by 5, you are dividing both of these terms by 5. So I'm going to put everything divided by 5. Okay, so here they're going to cancel. And then when you do 3 divided by 5, okay, and you get a decimal, what does that tell you about how you're writing this?
Wrong.
No, you're going to keep it as a fraction. Yep. Plus, we know that when you're graphing, you want your rise over your run. Guys, I need you up here, focused. We're doing this one together, and then I'll let you try some on your own if you're ready for that. Okay, and then you have, the next one is negative 10 divided by 5. Okay, so when you guys are putting this into your calculator, make sure you're paying attention to the signs. Okay, that's something I noticed on the last section, that some of our signs, we weren't carrying them through. So if it's a negative 2, you're going to put minus 2. Okay, now this is in the proper form, so you can find your slope. Okay, and then I want you guys to just write down here what your M is, and then we'll do the next step together. Okay, and then if you have the 3/5, let's wait till we finish that. Okay, and then M equals the 3/5. Tim, don't worry about it. Yeah, I know, and I need you up here. Okay, so if you have M equals and M equals, guys, enough. If they're the same, okay, then what are the lines going to be? If they're the same slope. Yep, good. And that's exactly what you're going to write. So they're the same slope, so it's going to be parallel. And that is okay, so if it's the same slope, they're going to be parallel lines. Alright, so for B, I want you guys to do the first step for both of those. Alright, when I came around, I noticed that you guys were able to pick out the slope very well. Okay, and then this part kind of gotcha. So when you're trying to put this in the right form, this is something that we did in the last, well, earlier this chapter really, but it feels like it's a while ago. Okay. Alright, so once you get here, if you want to get y by itself, you're going to divide. Okay, now when you divided, this is the part that I thought might be tricky for you. Okay, and then once you have this, you're going to do negative 1 over 7x, and then 14 divided by 7 is 2. Okay, so if you have this, the negative 1/7x plus 2, now we're going to compare the slopes, okay? So the slope here is 7, the slope here is negative 1 over 7. Okay, so these are going to be the questions that you're going to ask yourself, and I'm going to write them down here, okay? So are the slopes the same? So you're comparing the slopes. Are they the same? No. Okay. The second thing is, are they opposite reciprocals? And the easiest way to find that is to multiply them and see if the product is equal to negative 1. So we're going to do that part together. So will you guys write that down, because you are going to be doing this on your own. For the next ones, not this one, but I want you to have that direction. So obviously you can tell whether they're the same. When you're doing the product, okay, you're going to do 7 times negative 1/7. Okay, and then, oh, sorry, I just did that real quick. I'm sorry. I want you to do that on your calculator. Okay, so some of you might know how to multiply that without your calculator because the 7s, they'll cancel out, but most of you are going to do it like this. 7 times, and then in parentheses, I want you to do negative 1/7. Or, I bet you could use your ABC button. Okay, so if you want to use your ABC button, that's fine too. Okay, so if you get negative 1, that means the product is negative 1, okay, and then it's perpendicular. If this answer was no as well, it would be neither. Okay, so if the answer is yes, they are perpendicular. Okay, and then the other thing we're going to do today is we are going to graph these. So when you are graphing them, there are 2 steps. You start at the y-intercept, and you're going to use the slope, which is your rise over your run. Would you guys like me to do this line with you, or do you feel like you can do that without me? Do you feel like you can graph that line without me or no? So your y-intercept is going to be negative 3. Okay, so if your y-intercept is negative 3, that's where you're going to start. And then I'm feeling good that you can do your slope after that. So you're going to go up 3, right? 3/5, up 3, 1, 2, 3, over 5. Up 3, over 5. And then you can go down 3, over 5. Sorry, sometimes I have to recount. 1, 2, 3. Over 5. Okay, and then I want you to do it with this line. So you have your M, your B is negative 2, and then I'll come around and give you guys some rulers, and then I want you to graph the other 2 lines.